Have you ever found yourself sitting in your favorite chair, the morning stretching out before you, and thinking, is this really what retirement is supposed to feel like? Maybe you've poured your heart into a career, raised a family, or built a life full of responsibilities. And now, suddenly, the days feel, well, a little too quiet. Like something's missing. You're not alone. In fact, I felt the same way when I first retired. But here's the good news. Retirement isn't an ending. It's a brand new chapter, a chance to rediscover passions you've set aside or even find entirely new ones that light up your days. Today, we're talking about purpose, that magical ingredient that turns ordinary days into adventures. And guess what? You don't need to climb mountains or reinvent the wheel. Sometimes, the most fulfilling hobbies are hiding in plain sight. Over the course of our conversation, we'll explore 5 simple, purpose-driven activities that can reignite your spark, connect you with others, and remind you just how much life has to offer. Let's start with 2 of my favorites. First up, gardening. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, but I've never had a green thumb. Trust me, neither did I when I started. Gardening isn't about perfection. It's about patience, curiosity, and watching something grow because you showed up for it. Whether it's a windowsill herb garden or a corner of your backyard, tending to plants gives you a daily reason to step outside, breathe fresh air, and feel grounded. My neighbor, Margaret, started with a single tomato plant after her husband passed. Today, she's the veggie queen of her community garden, swapping recipes and seedlings with folks half her age. She says it's not just the harvest that nourishes her, it's the ritual. The dirt under her nails, the sun on her shoulders. That's her therapy. Start small. Grab a pot, some soil, and a seed packet from the store. Choose something easy, basil, marigolds, maybe a succulent. Water it, talk to it, and celebrate every tiny leaf. Before you know it, you'll have a little oasis that's yours. Now, if digging in the dirt isn't your thing, how about volunteering? I know, you've already given so much of your time. But this isn't about obligation. It's about sharing what makes you uniquely you. Think about it. You've got decades of skills, stories, and wisdom. Why not put them to work in a way that feels joyful? My friend Carl, a retired mechanic, volunteers at a local high school, teaching teens how to rebuild engines. He says their laughter, and the occasional, "Whoa, Mr. Carl, you're cooler than YouTube," fills his cup more than any paycheck ever did. You don't need to commit hours every week. Start with what feels manageable. Love animals? Shelters always need folks to walk dogs or cuddle kittens. Miss the camaraderie of work? Libraries, food banks, or community theaters thrive on helpers like you. The key is to choose something that feels like play, not work. When you give from a place of joy, it doesn't drain you, it fuels you. Margaret and Carl found their why in unexpected places. Maybe you will too. And here's the secret. Purpose isn't some grand, elusive thing. It's in the dirt under your fingertips, the smile you share with a stranger, the quiet pride of knowing you've still got so much to give. So why not pick one of these ideas and try it this week? Just once. See how it feels. And if gardening or volunteering don't quite click for you, don't worry. We're just getting started. There are more paths to explore, ones that might surprise you with how perfectly they fit into your life. But for now, I'd love to hear, what's one small step you'll take this week to invite a little more purpose into your days? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you're ready to keep this conversation going, I'll meet you right here. You know, one of the most beautiful things about this stage of life is that we finally have the time to create. Not for a deadline or a paycheck, but purely for the joy of it. Maybe you've always thought, I'm not the artistic type, but let me ask you this. When's the last time you let yourself play? I'm talking about the kind of play that makes you lose track of time, where the only thing that matters is the swirl of color on a page or the feel of clay between your fingers. That's where our next hobby comes in. Exploring creative arts. Creativity isn't about talent. It's about curiosity. My cousin Elaine picked up a paintbrush for the first time at 68. She'd never taken an art class, but she decided to sign up for a local workshop, just for fun. Fast forward a year, and she's hosting her own exhibit at the community center. But here's the best part. She says the paintings themselves aren't what matter most. It's the way painting slows her down, helps her notice the light filtering through the trees or the way her granddaughter's laugh lines crinkle. It's become her meditation. You don't need a fancy studio or expensive supplies. Start with a $5 sketch pad and a pencil. Doodle while your coffee brews. Try adult coloring books. They're wonderfully soothing. Or if you're feeling adventurous, grab some modeling clay and sculpt a miniature version of your dog. The goal isn't to make a masterpiece. It's to let your hands and heart work together, without any rules. And who knows? You might just surprise yourself. Now, if the idea of a blank canvas feels a little too blank, how about this? Lifelong learning. And before you say, I'm too old for school, hear me out. Learning after 60 isn't about grades or cramming for exams. It's about feeding your curiosity, one fascinating bite at a time. Take my friend Rosa here. Rosa, grinning I used to think my brain was full up after decades of teaching. But last year, I signed up for an online course about ancient Egyptian history, something I'd always been curious about. Now my grandkids call me Professor Nana. Rosa's not just learning, she's connecting. She hosts a monthly history tea, where her friends debate whether Cleopatra was truly as clever as they say. But it doesn't have to be formal. Ever wanted to speak Italian? There's an app for that. Curious about birdwatching? Grab a guidebook and sit by the window with a pair of binoculars. Or maybe you've got a skill you could teach. My brother-in-law, a retired carpenter, started offering free woodworking tutorials at the community center. Turns out, there's a whole crowd of young folks eager to learn how to build a bookshelf, and he loves being the wise old owl of the workshop. The internet's made it easier than ever to learn, or teach, from your living room. Platforms like YouTube and Skillshare have thousands of free tutorials. Or check out your local library for clubs and classes. The point is to follow that little spark of, I've always wondered. Because that spark? That's your passport to a world that keeps expanding, no matter your age. Creative arts and lifelong learning. They're not just hobbies. They're invitations to stay wonderstruck. To look at the world and say, what else can I discover? Maybe you'll paint a shaky first watercolor that your grandkids frame on their fridge. Maybe you'll finally understand why the stars twinkle, or teach a teenager how to fix a leaky faucet. Every time you try something new, you're telling yourself, I'm still growing. I'm still here. But what if your idea of purpose isn't just about you? What if it's about leaving a piece of yourself for the future? Something that says, I was here and this is what mattered. Well, that's where our final hobby comes in, and it's one that's as timeless as they come. There's a question I've carried with me for years. What do we leave behind when we're gone? Not the stuff in attics or storage units, but the stories, the laughter, the hard-won lessons that shaped us. That's where our final hobby comes in, preserving your legacy through storytelling. Now, before you think, I'm no Shakespeare. This isn't about writing a best-selling memoir. It's about sharing the moments that made you you. Take my Uncle Frank. After his diagnosis, he started jotting down snippets of his life. Simple things, like how he met his wife at a diner in 1965, or the time he got lost in Rome and stumbled into the best espresso of his life. He'd scribble these stories on napkins, receipts, whatever was handy. When he passed, his family bound those scraps into a book. Now his great-grandkids read it and say, wow, he was kind of a troublemaker. Those messy, imperfect notes? They're a treasure. You don't need to write a novel. Start with a single memory. The smell of your mother's perfume. The job you took on a whim that changed everything. Record a voice memo for your grandkids. Or if you're tech-savvy, try a video diary. Your phone's camera works just fine. Local libraries often have oral history projects too, where you can share tales of the old days for future generations. The goal isn't perfection. It's to say, I was here and this is what I loved. Now, looking back at all we've covered, gardening, volunteering, creating art, lifelong learning, and storytelling, you might notice a thread. These aren't just hobbies. They're acts of connection. To the earth, to others, to your younger self, and to the people who'll come after you. And the beauty is, you can mix and match them. Maybe you'll paint scenes from your garden, or teach a neighbor how to compost. The point is to find what makes your heart feel both light and full. Retirement isn't a pause button. It's a fresh canvas. And it's never too late to pick up the brush. Start small. Try one thing this week. If it doesn't stick, try another. The world is still bursting with ways to surprise you. So, what's your next step? Maybe it's planting a seed, literally or figuratively. Or maybe it's finally asking your grandson to show you how to use that smartphone camera. Whatever it is, know this: your story isn't over. In many ways, it's just getting to the good part. I'd love to hear which of these ideas speaks to you, or what hobbies have already brought joy to your days. Share them in the comments below. Let's inspire each other. And if you found this helpful, pass it along to a friend who might need a little nudge. After all, the best chapters are the ones we write together. Here's to your next adventure. However you choose to live it, make it yours.